I'm standing a few feet away from my father. He is talking to the father of one of the other girls. The other father winks at me. I smile. My father glances at me. He tells the other dad, "That's Mary. She's my little Olympian. One day she's going to be at the games." I don't know exactly what this means, but I'm too young. But I hear pride in his voice when he talks about me. I will go to the Olympics because it will make my father happy. I recall my father referring to me as his little Olympian on a few occasions, and to my face. He also called me other endearments like Peanut, but little Olympian was the one that made me feel special. According to my mother, there was never a formal discussion, parent to parent, about me being Olympics bound. It seemed to be a secret between me and my dad. To my mother, my gymnastics was a hobby. She would be the shoulder to cry on when I got frustrated or worried and say, "As long as you're happy and doing your best, that's all that matters." She never pushed me, but I know she saw something in me as well and didn't want me to quit. She never knew the pressure I put myself under to make my dad proud, or that what mattered most to me was to never complain and disappoint him. I learned from him that you don't deserve a pat on the back for every move you do. What this all meant to my young mind was that by the age of 7, I thought I had it all figured out. Gymnastics was more than a sport. It was a way of life, and the only one I knew. I would train as hard as I could alongside my father, and one day, we would be at the Olympics together, competing on the world's toughest stage. Then the worst thing in my young life happened. My father was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, bone marrow cancer. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. I was far too young to understand, even if my parents had tried to explain. Truthfully, I have little memory of what, if anything, was told to me. It's all a blur. But the feeling of that time has stuck with me. Without explanation, things started to change. More and more, I was at home with only my mother and 2 older brothers for company. My father wasn't around much, or if he was, he didn't spend time with us as he once did. I was told simply that he was too sick to coach me. I stopped going to his gym and started taking gymnastics lessons in Victoria, on Vancouver Island, which was a ferry ride away. Mom and I did that 3 or 4 times a week. Eventually, the truth was shared. My father was sick and in the hospital. Multiple myeloma is a very aggressive cancer that affects the body's lymph nodes, so it spreads quickly and is very hard to detect. The prognosis wasn't good, but his illness impacted our family in a myriad of ways beyond his inability to coach me. Without my father's income, my mother opened a bed and breakfast in our house to help pay the bills. Her job as a nurse simply wasn't enough to make ends meet. It must have been a very scary and lonely time for her. And being on the opposite side of the country, far from any family or support network, made us isolated too.